The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by TheOp, also known as USAopoly.
The Dice Tower, episode 723, Polyhedral.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandi loops and flips while I make some za. The pie of the show is garden game pie. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to have you joining us for another episode of The Dice Tower Podcast.
I know, can I tell you, as soon as you said garden, a song came to mind. It's so good.
Of course it did.
In the Garden of Eden, honey.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you know that I love you? Okay, sorry. That's enough. To rock out a little bit.
It's funny because obviously conventions haven't really been a thing for us for the last year and a half, 2 years, whereas, you know, we were pretty accustomed to attending conventions together. And you, like, folks, Mandi always has music going, and she has the most eclectic mix of music. Every morning, like when we're getting ready in the morning, she's got all these different song mixes that she plays, and it's bananas how eclectic and different the selection is. I love it.
I'm all about music from the 50s right through to now. So I love it all. I love it all.
Absolutely. Well, folks, last episode we did an episode title poll about Jigsaw puzzles because there's some interesting overlap. And honestly, I'm going to be honest. I was a little surprised. I thought the strong overlap was going to be more.
Right.
But I think that so many folks, especially people who listen to the Dice Tower and who are willing to vote in this poll, are such board game fanatics that I probably should have guessed. But because only 9% of you said that you love puzzles and you do a lot of them a year. Yeah. I thought that was going to be higher. Mm-hmm. Now, 31% of you said you do one or two a year. You like puzzles and you do like one or two.
Yeah.
Somebody in the replies wrote that it's a holiday tradition for them.
Oh, that's
They always
nice.
pull out a puzzle for the holidays and lay it out. And I thought that is a cool tradition. I really like that.
Yeah.
And then 34% of you said you like puzzles, but you don't do them. And I think that's because y'all are playing board games too much.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think the exit games with the puzzle bits, I'm so eager to get my copy to the table. I haven't managed yet because we're trying to coordinate the right friends because everybody wants to do it together.
Absolutely.
But that's going to be cool. And then, honestly, 25.5% of you said puzzle schmuzzle. You're just not into puzzles. And that's cool. I'll tell you, I thought that strong overlap was going to be bigger. And Mandi, there were people in the comments, I don't know if you had a chance to see the thread, they were agreeing with you. Like, they're very picky. They have specific kind of art. Like, one reply talked about how they like puzzles to have kind of distinct visual sections that they can kind of cordon off and, like, give to different people who are working on the puzzle so you can work on it together and have your distinct sections that you're kind of focused on. I thought that was cool. Now, you have, like, a piece count, and, like, I know that you're very selective.
Yeah, I have a couple of puzzles I'm, working on, and I got a few that are, like, board game related, so it's literally like a cover of a board game. So I'm like, okay, that's really cool. But yes, pieces for me, I just like the bigger piece puzzles. And I know generally the very large ones are for children, and I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about the ones that are about between the 400 to 600 count. For me.
Sure, yeah, like a nice 500 piece. Yeah.
Right. And I think I don't even mind if it would be 1,000 pieces, but if it had more open space in the puzzle. There are some puzzles when you get into the 1,000 piece and they're so busy that everything looks the same. And I feel like I get frustrated. I'm like, ugh, one little line's off here. Nope, it's the same color as this piece over here. And I'm like, that's not fun. I want to really, it's making a picture. Ooh, there's another piece. Oh, yes. Oh, I see it now. Like, I want that feeling. And I feel sometimes when I do those really intricate 1,000-piece puzzles, that's not fun for me. Like, I'm doing one now. That's one of the Ravensburger puzzles where it's you put the puzzle together, but there are some pieces in the puzzle that aren't on the box.
Oh, the Ravensburger like mystery puzzles, right?
Exactly.
The escape room puzzles that Ravensburger does. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying that so far. And I find this one like I'm actually putting it together. I'm really enjoying it. I even have my mom. She'll like walk by the table and she'll be like, "Oh, I see a piece," and she'll throw a piece in there, to help me finish it. And then when it's done, you get to solve whatever the little mystery is. So that kind of stuff I really enjoy. But yeah, I'm a little picky about. Too busy, I find, closely related colors. I don't enjoy that. And if it's too high of a player count with that, not so good. But I like the 400 to 600 range puzzles. That's my jam.
Whatever makes you happy. I think puzzles are so relaxing and so much fun to work on together. I got a puzzle board. So it's a big kind of cardboard fabric covered thing that you can work the puzzle on the board. It fits the whole puzzle. But then if you need to take a break from the puzzle, it's got flaps that you can put down over it, and it protects the puzzle and kind of holds it in place so you can like tuck it under a sofa or a table to get it out of the way. It just makes it more convenient overall and doesn't take up table space the whole time until you finish it. And that's been amazing to have. And I really like that because I have friends who just, if you put a puzzle in front of them, they're going to work it until it's done. Right. I'm not like that. I like to dabble at it.
Yes, I'm the same way. And I have a roll. So instead of the table, like the board you have, I have a roll.
Oh, you have one of the roll-up ones? Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't love it. I think I'm actually just going to go and get one of the flat ones like you have.
The big flat ones like I have with the cover, yeah.
Because if you don't roll it like exactly right, I feel like pieces kind of move. And I'm not about to have spent all these hours putting this together to roll it up and then unroll it. And it's now all over the place. I am not having that today. So I think I'm going to have to invest in the board.
I like my board for sure. So thanks everybody for voting in our puzzle poll. I learned something today and appreciate all of your responses there. This episode, we're asking you about your favorite polyhedral dice. Now, for those of you who play RPGs or who are just, most of y'all listening will know what I mean when I say a set of polyhedral dice, right? This is a set of dice that has a D20, a D10, a D12, a D6, a D4, right? It's got all the little different variable sizes. It's got the weird D10 percentage die that nobody ever uses. So, which one's your favorite? I'm going to put the poll up and we're going to put like all those like D20. I'm not going to list like the D100s or things like that. I'll put an other option and you can leave a comment if those are your favorites. But let us know because, Mandi, I have opinions here. I got a strong opinion. I have a very specific die that is my absolute favorite and I'm willing to defend my choice
this should
on
be
podcast.
Interesting. Okay, this will be a fun discussion.
And I know some of y'all out there just love the Caltrops die, right? Everybody, there's some of y'all love the pyramid die that if you step on it, pierces your foot and kills you. So I want to know who you are. So we'll put that poll up, as usual, in the Dice Towers Board Game Geek Guild for you to vote on. Tell us which die is your favorite, and we'll see if you vote the right way. My way, for the correct one.
Oh, jeez.
No pressure. All right, Mandi. I know that you have been flitting about and doing a ton of gaming with friends. Let's talk about some of these games you've been playing.
Absolutely.
So, what have you been playing lately?
All right, as Suzanne mentioned, I am a busy little bee because I've been able to play with friends in person. Yay! Ha! The crowd goes wild. Ha! It's very exciting. I'm very excited. So now I have lots of fun games to talk about. All those backlogged games are getting played. So let's start off with a slightly bigger one, I guess. So I played recently Godspeed, and this is designed by Clayton Hargrave and Adam Hill. Art is by Jesse Riggle, and it's published by Pandasaurus Games. Retails for about $55. It's for 2 to 5 players and plays in about 45 to 90 minutes. There's some bidding in this game, and worker placement is the name of this game here. So there you go. So
I thought the name of this game was Godspeed.
It is, but a worker placement. Godspeed the worker placement. That is the name of this game.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Mandi.
Yeah, it's going to be this kind of podcast, everybody.
Oh, boy.
So, in Godspeed, you're playing a scientist, and you're getting to choose the nation that you play. So you could be the US, you can be Japan, Canada. There's a whole bunch you can choose from. Now, the version or copy that I have, I should mention, I believe is like a deluxe. I think there were various tiers because I believe this was on Kickstarter. And there was like deluxe was like a basic, and then they had like another level. So my version or copy has double-sided player boards. So I think we got extra nations in there. I think initially you only get 5, and then now it's 10 with this version that I have. And I also have the metal coins in this one. So everything else should be the same. The game is played over 10 rounds, and there are 4 phases within each round. So the point of the game is to finish those 10 rounds and get as many points as you can via completion of different objectives that you have in each kind of section, and we'll talk about that, and cards and buildings and resources. So those are some things that you can use to get points. So before we start, there's a board. It's fairly large, and that's going to be where you're going to be doing most of your actions. And you have like a little player board, which you're going to house your buildings, and these are going to generate resources for you at a certain point in the game. There are cards on the board, and the cards in a certain area of the board are the cards you're going to want to pick up to pay for them. And then in addition to that, you'll get resources, which are going to help you complete these objectives that are available for you each kind of section. So like from rounds 1 to 3, you'll have 1, 4 to 6, and then to the end of the game. So there's 3 of those main ones. And then you'll also have these little kind of crystals that you can get. So the first person who's completed 3 of a specific type of card gets that first, and those are worth points at the end of the game. And there are a variety of those as well. So it's pretty straightforward. So they have a high council phase, and this is where you have a card that gets flipped over. And you have these tokens in the game. So everybody has these tokens that are marked as a captain or an ambassador, and they have different number values on them. This is important because you're going to use those for bidding. Here's the tricky thing. This phase here has consequences. So if you're like, yeah, it's going to want you to use a specific token that you have. We'll talk about why this is important in a minute. Or not. But if you choose not to use a token, you're going to get a penalty or consequence. So we have these tracks on the board, which are, I think they're prestige points, and they have them in the different kind of colored cards that I was mentioning before. And you can actually get negative on the track if you decide you don't want to use that token. You're like, why wouldn't you? Use the token, you get something. If you don't, you get a penalty. The thing is, you want to try and keep your tokens for variety when you're taking actions in the next part of the game. Because then it says, oh, you need a specific token to go to a specific place. But if you used it in the first part, you're not going to have that available to you. So this is something that you have to consider. So once that happens, then we have another part where you get to choose cards. And it's the first player gets 2 items. So you either can be the first player or choose 2 kind of cards that are going to give you some special actions later in the game. Or if you're second player, you just get 1 item. So being first player can kind of matter in this specific circumstance. But in order to do that, this is where you have to bid with your tokens to be like, do I want to go first to choose, not to choose? We'll see. And this is where you're now losing tokens, right, to bid. It's secret. Just reveal them. And now those tokens are no longer available for you to use in the next portion of the game. So this is the main part of the game where you have some cards. You want to put your tokens out to get these cards, to remember, fill those objectives I was telling you about earlier. And people can block you. So this is where you can go to a space and you get blocked. I can't do that, which may now push you into the next round. And some of those objectives are first to do it. So if you don't get it done first, you snooze, you lose. Okay, so that's going to happen. And then you resolve, where you get to produce anything that you have on your board. If you've completed buildings and slots on your boards, you get to produce from those buildings, and repeats like that for the 10 rounds. And you also want to push those prestige checks that I was telling you about, because those are also points at the end of the game. Okay, so I have thoughts. I don't know where I should start. This game is not intended for 2 players. Like, at all.
Okay, fair.
And we've had this discussion before where, there are a lot of games that want to provide that 2-player experience, because a lot of people tend to shy away from games that say 3 to 5. This is one of those games that should have been marked 3 to 5. I felt that there was no tension. Some games you have that feeling of urgency, like I need to do this before this ends, and oh my goodness, like you're stressed. Like I like that. I'm not saying it needs to be stressful, but you need to feel like you want to do something, because if you don't, this is going to happen. Or I'm not going to have enough of this, or someone's going to get there first. And there's a little bit of that trying to get there first, but it's not, I really felt like, yeah, okay, like I did things to do things. I had so many options. And yeah, in a 2-player game, you get to block certain spaces off, but we still were like, okay, found enough ways to work around it. I didn't feel any need to not take that first part. Remember I told you there was a penalty in the beginning if you didn't take it? We always took it. You know what I mean? I didn't find that it didn't penalize me enough to not take it. So I just feel there was a lot of that for me. Okay, I'll do this just because. And in our particular game, I played with Ashley. And just so you all know, I did win. Barely.
Whoa!
But I won. But I didn't feel good about the win. This is the problem.
Oh.
Like, I feel like it wasn't a win earned. Like, I just did things and it happened to work out. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Ashley had cards that she was pulling to complete, and they were really high value, but she wasn't getting the resources to complete them. I, on the other hand, was pulling really low valued cards, but I had a ton of resources. And then it kind of switched a bit as the game progressed. So then I had less resources, then I started getting these higher cards, and then she started getting lower cards and had more resources. Like, it was a very strange kind of dynamic, and then it kind of plateaued a bit. So it was very random. Like, that came across as a very random thing for us. So I don't know how I felt about it. And I get it. With cards, you're just going to get what you get. But then you end up spending actions just to pull cards. I mean, I wasn't here for that part of it. I see what they were trying to do with trying to do the bids and then trying to do, the kind of spaces and blocking spaces. And I get trying to add all of these interesting things, a prestige track, but I feel like it felt a bit clunky to me. And for the type of game that it was not a smooth experience. It just didn't, for me specifically, if I were going to play a game that had this kind of theme, had the use of cards and resources, I would actually go to a game more like Space Race, which I think you might have played, Suzanne. I'm not sure. They're not.
I have not played Space Race.
Oh, you haven't? I'm sorry. I thought you had.
Oh, yes. The card one. Yes,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes.
It's not the same game, let's be clear. But I feel like with the type of theme and kind of what they were trying to do, I think was better achieved in that game. Like, even playing solo that game, I felt like, I was being challenged. And now that had more of like a tableau kind of building thing. But I liked the fact where you had to make specific actions, which not only affected you, but that could affect the other player, and how you did it, when you did it, like all of those things mattered. Like, you had to pay attention, and I feel I didn't really have to do that here. It didn't sit right for me in that respect. The art is something else that I understand the theme of the game, where they were going. There wasn't enough contrast. So if you have difficulty or challenges with color, I feel you might have some difficulty with this particular board. I'm not an artist. I know a little bit about art. I was a makeup artist once in my lifetime. But I feel like, contrasting and shading and those things, it doesn't sound important, but for someone who may have difficulty with that, I feel that could have been done a little bit better. So it's just hard to see. And the cards, the resources at the top, are resources that you have to pay, and then the resources on the bottom are the ones that you get. But the way that the card was, everything just blended together. I just feel like it wasn't apparent, and there was a bit of confusion. These are like nitpicky things a little bit, but for someone who might find that hard to read, it could be difficult for them to have fun playing the game. So I wasn't too crazy about that, but other people may not have this issue as much. It's nice, the art. I just feel there needed to be more contrast to appreciate all the things, and it did hinder playability a little bit. Components were top notch. I've never felt so happy about punching cardboard. It was like popped right out. Heyo. There was no little dangly bits. It didn't rip off the cardboard. I was here for it. So production, excellent. I think they did a really good job. So all that to say, wrap this all up. This is a game that to me it wasn't overly exciting for me to play at 2 players. And I'm going to preface this with, I would revisit this at a later time with more players, but I 100% seeing it better if you were playing with like 3, even 4, because I believe it goes up to 5. I said higher play, or like, I think more players would be best in this scenario. Anything that has to do with bidding and denial of kind of areas or blocking, I feel you need that higher player count. So for me, this is not a game that I personally enjoyed at 2. I definitely think people might enjoy it more with more players. That's all to say, it's not a bad game. It just wasn't specifically for me. So that was Godspeed.
Player count really does matter.
It really makes a difference. And this could change my mind. You know what I mean? I could play with more people, and it could definitely change my mind.
Fair enough. What is a somewhat stark exchange of pace here? Mozzaroller.
Okay.
Actually, a listener and friend, John Brown, messaged me and said, Hey, you should check this game out. Yeah.
Nice.
And John knows that I am pretty easy to sway to order games from overseas.
So wait a second now, John. I know you listen to the podcast. Where was my message to buy said game?
I think I have a stronger reputation, Mandy, of like ordering from foreign overseas sites
You
than
do.
you do. That's all.
No, you do. And I'm John.
And it's true. I do.
No, you're the best.
Because sure enough, I went and ordered Mozzaroller from Germany. And why? Because it's a Jeffrey Allers game. So Jeffrey Allers is also the designer behind Piece of Cake or New York Slice.
Yeah.
And when I think of Jeffrey D. Aller designs, it always brings to mind Phil Walker Harding as well. I feel like these designers fit into a similar sphere in my brain in terms of game complexity, game approachability, game fun, that kind of thing. And I'm a fan of both. The art in Mozzaroller is by Bartłomiej Kordowski, and it's actually published by a publishing group called Piatnik. It's not available in North America at this time. I'm sorry, folks. I did have to order. It's got this rule book. It's got one of those rule books where it's got multiple languages in one rule book, and you flip through until you find English. Oh, there's no English in this rule book. I had to go on BGG, where thankfully they've posted a translation. And who knows? Because I could see where this game has a lot of appeal. So maybe it'll hit North America in the future. Mozzaroller, you got a big deck of cards and you got some really cool custom D6 dice. And what's going to happen is that you shuffle up these pizza cards and you lay out 8 of them in a ring. There's some delivery driver tokens that are associated with the color of the cards. And really, this is a light push your luck dice game. You're going to take a handful of these dice, roll them, and then each of the pizza cards has a mix of some ingredients on it. Some cards have 1 ingredient, some cards have 3, that kind of thing. You're going to roll dice, and then you just assign dice to the cards that are in that tableau. When you finish a card, great. That actually allows you to place dice on the adjacent cards if you so desire. So roll dice, place dice. Oh, you got to put 2 ingredients out. Cool. Then you take the rest of the dice and roll them again, and hopefully get more. You push your luck until you want to stop or until you must stop because you cannot place an ingredient die. When that happens, you take all the completed cards for scoring purposes. But any cards that you started to place dice on but could not finish, you're going to take a sad face token. I forget what they're thematically called, but it's literally a little token with a frowny face.
Wah, wah.
And next turn, for every frowny face token you have, you will get fewer dice to roll for that turn. There are those driver tokens that count for majority. So if you have the most green pizza orders fulfilled or the most brown or the most white, you're going to get these tokens that give you extra points. But really, this is the whole game. It's a very straightforward, push your luck, dice rolling, dice allocation game, and it's delightful. It's adorable. It's easy to teach. There's always just something satisfying about rolling a big handful of these custom dice. All the components are very nice quality, from the cards to the custom dice to even the cardboard tokens are very nice quality. It's a lovely package. And I really enjoy it. And I feel like, again, it fits in this family of games like Piece of Cake or like Sushi Go, where it's approachable, it's pretty, it's accessible, and it's the kind of game I like to see on shelves in toy stores and mass market stores and hobby stores because it's just something you can throw down with just about anyone. So Mozzaroller, thanks, John, for the recommendation. I really enjoyed it.
That sounds fun. See, now here's the problem. I can't get it. I have to order this.
I know.
Really?
Well, Mandy, what you should do is you should send a message to Piatnik and be like, hey, you need to work with somebody.
Yes.
And get this published in North America so I can get it here in Canada and the United States. But I understand it can be frustrating.
Yes.
When I talk about a game that I've ordered from overseas. But part of the thing that I enjoy doing is sharing new games and bringing games that are a little harder to find or you might not normally hear about to the forefront because they're worth highlighting.
Now it's true. I'm very excited. I'm going to check it out. Thanks, John, for making me buy more games. All right. Well, we are off to a type of game. I don't know if it's Suzanne's favorite, but maybe this one might change her mind. So This is The Loop. and it's designed by Maxime Rambourg and Theo Rivière. Art is by Simon Caruso, and it's published by TheOp.games. It retails for about $45. I'm not sure. I think this one's out. I know I got it a bit early, but I believe you can purchase it, or it's at least on pre-order, so I apologize if that's thrown anybody off.
Actually, I just checked, and the loop will be available in North America, at least, in September.
Perfect. Thank you. I definitely know. I wanted to talk about it early. Thank you for checking on that.
I gotcha.
I appreciate it. So The Loop is a cooperative game, and in this game you are battling the evil Dr. Foe. Exciting, right? So let's talk about some of the pieces before we get to the actual game. So literally, that's it. You are trying to battle Dr. Foe, and obviously trying to complete all, I think it's 4 objectives you have to complete. Otherwise, you're in trouble. And there is a bit of a timeline when you have to do it. Or if, Dr. Foe decides to kind of like put vortexes in specific areas, and too many vortexes will also lose you the game. Or hey, ending on a space with a vortex can also lose you the game. So many things that can make you lose. So
there's so many ways to lose this game.
There's
Holy
so many
cow.
ways to lose. You just need to defeat the doctor. So this game actually has a rounded kind of board, but it's kind of split into pie-like sections. And then you have this like piece that you're gonna have to put together. It's like a plastic kind of little tower that has like 3 chutes on it, and that's going to sit in the middle of the board because that rotates depending on types of cards that are pulled. I'll talk about that in a second. Everybody gets to type of player they can use, which has a special ability, and then you have your own deck of cards. I mean, you will get more cards in the game, but these are kind of your starting cards, and you start with a hand of 3 cards, and you can just keep that open on the table. It's cooperative, right? We're all working together, but you are going to take your own turns. We also have another separate board that's going to house the Dr. Foe cards, and those are going to get flipped every turn, and then things are going to happen. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then you also have some other cards that I was mentioning that you're going to be able to acquire in the game to get you more things that'll help defeat the evil doctor. Now, there are different scenarios in the game. I played an easy one, and I also played easy, and medium, because you can play like a medium easy, or like a medium, or a medium hard. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so there's like different levels within a level, but there are different scenarios, and then within that you can choose. So level of the scenario will tell you what it is, and then within that level, which I thought was really interesting. So that's really cool. So I did play a couple of those. When you play scenarios, there are added bits to the game. Those components will be evident when you open the box. So on a turn, what ends up happening is, you decide who's going to go first, and then Dr. Foe has a thing that he does. So he's got some cards, and flipping those cards are going to add these tokens on the board. So when we start the game, these tokens are out, and we have some green cubes that are out on the board as well. Those are going to help us with movement and things like that. But these little, and the name is escaping me of the proper terminology, but they have these tokens that go on the board, and you want to destroy those tokens if you can by moving them to their matching area. And the reason why you want to destroy them is because when we have to add cubes to the board, so these red cubes, which are bad, and this is in this phase that I'm talking about, depending on how many of those tokens are there, that adds on. So like in the beginning of the game, like that first phase, because there are 3 kind of levels of these cards, when the deck runs out, then it'll go to the next one and you add more things, and then the next time it runs out, then you're going to add more things. So in the first level of round, it's like a cube plus however many tokens are in that area, and you're adding tokens as well when this card comes out. So you don't know where they're going to go, and this is why it gets dangerous. Red cubes are bad. They cause vortexes. If you have more than 3 red cubes on a space, it causes a vortex.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, because each section has objectives. And if you have a vortex, that objective is now gone. So if you were working on that objective and you had cubes on it to finish it, the vortex has destroyed it. And and your goal is to get 4 of these objectives completed. So that kind of sucks. So this is why you have to be cognizant of, how many tokens are out and that sort of thing. And then you get cards that go out in certain areas. And if you end your turn on a space where there's a card, you're going to be able to get that card and put that on the top of your deck. But on your turn, you have 3 cards that you're working with, unless you draw more. Do some actions on the board like movement. Like I was saying before, trying to complete some of the objectives by getting certain cubes on them. And there are different ones that you can get. Trying to get rid of those tokens I was telling you about. And then if you're playing a scenario, they may have an additional thing where you have to complete something or fill in certain tokens on the board. So that's another thing that you can do. So you basically are playing that until either you win by completing all your objectives, or Dr. Foe wins by creating vortexes and killing us all. That's not a good ending. That's not what we
No,
want.
that's dire.
It's so bad. So that's the general gist of it. So I think they said this game takes about, and I apologize, I don't think I wrote the time here. I think it's in the 45 to 60 minute range. I definitely think it plays longer than that.
Okay.
But it doesn't feel like it's super long. Do you know what I mean? Like you're enjoying yourself. So I think I really enjoyed that. And I believe this is great. I think this one can be played solo, which is another plus. You do have a nice variety of characters, although one of the characters seems a bit more complicated than the others. And I don't know how it would fare well in all the scenarios, but for the most part, it's pretty good. The components are great in this game. So I think this is what's going to drive the price up. I don't find this expensive. $45 for this game to me is not expensive because of the amount of gameplay you would get out of it. Like, remember I was telling you had like the easy level, but within the easy level, there are different things. And you have a variety of scenarios that you're doing. So I don't think that's a bad amount. And the tokens are really strong. You know, there are a lot of pieces. $45 to me is appropriate pricing for this type of game, in my opinion. Okay, not everybody might agree with that. We enjoyed it. I was worried by looking at it at first. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's going to be my type of game. I like co-ops, but I wasn't sure where this one was going. It's quirky, but it's fun. So I really enjoyed trying to like figure out the puzzle. And I played with 3 players at one time, and I thought it went really well. I played again with Ashley the other night, and I could tell she was into it. Okay, so let's figure this out.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna do this and this. Like, it was great trying to like talk it out. And I mean, yeah, you're always gonna get someone who's like maybe a little more adept at playing these types of games, but it was nice to have that. I don't know, you felt good because each character did something different and you were able to contribute. Like, my character maybe was better at taking off those red cubes, and Ashley's was better at putting those green cubes on, which are gonna help us move and, you know, complete certain objectives. So I really liked how the characters worked together. So you could pick 2 characters and they still worked well. And then I mentioned it before, I loved the variety of the difficulty levels. Medium was hard. Medium. Don't start with that on the first game. That was our second game, and we made it, but it was like, ooh, close. But that's good. That's what you want. You want to have fun and a little bit of that tension. And then if you don't win, guess what? You get to play it again. I am here for this. Now, if you don't like cooperative games, is this going to change your mind? Probably not. And I don't mean that as a negative thing. There are some games that are just so different than other types of, you know, games in that genre. It's still a really fun game, but like, for example, Suzanne, I know that you are not particularly fond of cooperative games. I think
I'm growing. They're growing on me.
I think you would play it. I don't know if you would enjoy it. Like, it doesn't have any different elements that it doesn't change the kind of way that a co-op is played. So if you're not a co-op game, this may not be one for you. This might be one that you could play with like your family and they would really enjoy it. But I don't know personally, if you don't like co-ops, this might not change your mind. All that being said, I really liked the loop and I was surprised. And I think I judged it. The art is nice, but I don't know. I
was going to say, the box is gorgeous.
The colors are beautiful. And this is now a contrast to the other game that I was talking about where I had a hard time kind of figuring symbols. Like, it was just a lot. This is another one that has a lot of bright colors, but you can see the nuances of shading. I can see that, oh, this is clearly this token on the board. Even though it had strong colors, they had some contrast. They had some shading, which made things pop and easier to see. So it could still be all bright, but this is where, and I'm not an artist, so anybody who's listening in this is an artist, I think you understand what I'm trying to get at or talk about. It's going to be a little easier for people who have challenges to see. So the loop for me, 2 thumbs up. I liked it a lot, and I look forward to playing it again. That's the loop.
That's awesome. It does look gorgeous. I've seen it. It was originally in Europe, and I remember first noticing there, and Pandasaurus is doing such a great job of picking up games. They also picked up Trek 12, which is a roll and write game that I'm super excited about. I actually, of course, imported my copy a little while ago, but when I saw that they picked that up, and the loop and Space Base, no, not Space. There's another one coming out that they picked up. That team's doing a good job on that front for sure. I've been, as you know, I chatted a little bit about last episode. I'm growing on cooperative games. Okay, maybe that's me changing, or maybe that's the games evolving a little bit too, or a combination there. So when you're talking about the loop, honestly, I'd love to give it a try. It sounds and it looks cool. Next up for me is a very quick, very simple game. But hey, when you like a game as much as my family's liking, I got to talk about it. I'm compelled to. This is Galtoni, Galtoni. It's designed by Ingo Althofer, and the graphic design or art is attributed to Reinhold Wittig. And this is a Clemens Gerhard's game. Now, I've talked about a few Clemens Gerhard games before, like Tintus, which is amazing, or Babylon, which is amazing. Now, Gerhard's games are these beautiful, crafted, mostly wood games. And they're in Europe for sure, but they are possible to get in North America from different stores. Maybe not every hobby store carries them, but they're definitely possible to get. I tend to order mine from a website called The Wooden Wagon. This isn't paid sponsorship or anything. That just happens to be where I always buy them from. So I figured I'd pass on the source so that Mandi can stop yelling at me about picking up games that are hard for her to get.
Sorry.
Now, look, folks, Galtoni is a combination of pachinko and Connect 4.
Oh.
If I didn't grab you with that, this is not the game for you. But if I did grab you with that description, it's a combo of pachinko and Connect 4.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm here for this. I want to know more.
Pachinko are those arcade machines where they just drop little balls and then it's like they have pegs down a sealed pegboard and all these little balls bounce and hit the pegs and then they fall into little buckets at the bottom of the board. And it feels very random and it feels very luck-based. And Connect 4 is Connect 4. Here's Galtoni that combines it. So you have this beautiful crafted wooden board that has 5 channels at the top and matching 5 channels at the bottom, but then there's a little series of pegs in between them. And there's a little post so that the board sits at an angle. You've got a bag full of marbles. It plays only up to 3. And you toss all the marbles into a bag, and on your turn, you draw one out at random. So maybe you're going to get your color, or maybe you're going to get an opponent's color. You pick a channel at the top to drop it down, and then you let physics do its job, and you see what happens. Ultimately, as soon as somebody connects 4 of their marbles in a row, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, they win the game. It's that simple. It's so much fun. There's something about the kinetics in play, the sounds, the quality of the board, the marbles, just it's very tactile and it's very satisfying and it's very fun. Is this light and simple? Yes. Is it hugely luck-based? Yes. Is it massively fun? Absolutely. 100%. We're loving it as a family. They do offer a wild marble, and if you choose to play with them, you don't have to. It's just a yellow marble that's not a player color, and if you mix it in, then in the array, it counts as anybody's color, so you can complete 4 in a row that way. A nice little addition. We play with, we play without. Who cares? It's Pachinko meets Connect 4, Galtoni. It's a little pricey, but if you want something that you can just sit around and have a beverage and play with a 4-year-old and have fun, or if you want to sit around and have a beverage and play with 60-year-olds, you got to check it out. It's a blast.
It sounds fun. And I saw it on your social media. Is that the same one you were posting?
Yeah.
It looks
it's beautiful.
Really nice. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous game.
You had me at Connect 4. Yeah, I know. I said it. I like Connect 4.
Connect 4 is great.
It's so good. All right, well, the last game I'm going to talk about, I figured I'd end on a light note today, and the game I'm going to talk about is Flipover Frog. So this is designed by Okabinius. Art is by Mathieu Beaulieu, and Okabinius as well was art on this, and it's published by TheOp.games. The price is about $16, and it's, I guess you'd call it an area majority type game. It plays 2 to 4 players, and it's pretty short. Plays only in about 15 minutes, so there you go. So in this game, it's about frogs, if the title didn't give it away. And you're trying to place tiles out, and then you're flipping adjacent tiles. And you're like, oh, well, that's okay. But, well, there's a thing here. You are trying to get the majority of your color to be face up on the board by the time the game ends. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to get to a tile secretly. Pick a tile. Okay, this is the frog. Let's say mine is the yellow frog. The yellow frog is the one. that needs to be the majority on the board at the end of the game for me to win. The tiles that you're going to be placing out on the game, which are other frog tiles, you're going to get a variety of colors, have arrows on them. And depending on where the arrows are pointing, so they could be diagonally, they could be, on the sides, variety. You can have 4 arrows. Wherever you place it, you're going to flip the tiles where all the arrows are pointing to. So it's hard because sometimes the board fills up to the point where you're flipping your own, or you're flipping others, right? So you might have to make some sacrifices. There are also snake tiles, which remove frog tiles from the game, not just from the board, from the game, and then those get discarded, but it does free up more space on the board for you to get more of your tiles out if possible. The end of the game is triggered when there are no more tiles to be placed out, and the person with the most frogs of their color wins. So I played this with my mom. She was so mad because she's like,
"Ooh, I bet. Yeah.
I could see her. She was all like, thought she was being crafty, and she's like, I got this in the bag. Like, I could tell just by watching her face. And then, like, boom, take that, flip, I win. And then she was like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Oh,
But no, she liked it. She has a thing with frogs, though. Like, she doesn't like frogs. They freak her out a little bit. Because where my mom's from, well, where my mom's from, she's from the Caribbean. Frogs are huge. Like, they're not, like, small, cute ones. They're big.
cute little frog, yeah.
So I get the fear of them. But she's like, it's very cute, but the frogs, it's a bit much. But she liked it. It was a short game, but it was a short game where you still had to make decisions, right? And it's ones where you can play with a family. Like, I think a family would like that, especially if kids that maybe just don't have or not able to hold the attention. Hey, you're talking to someone with ADHD here, so I get it. Sitting for long games can be difficult for some people. So this is really great. Have a lot of fun in a short amount of time. Art is really nice. Components are really nice. Comes in a small box. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but lately for me, these types of games in a small box, this is giving me life. Nothing is worse than getting a whole bunch of tiles in a box. That's massive. And, there's no need for it. But the game itself, I really enjoyed it. Like, how are you going to place those tiles? Ooh, but if I do this might trigger the end of the game, might flip this, I'm not going to win. I like that back and forth. And something as simple as placing tiles out made me happy. That, to me, is a good game, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I don't even have too much to say about it. Interesting gameplay, nice components. I love the art, super cute. I have a terrible memory, and this game didn't make me feel bad about myself. I know. Some of you are thinking, like, what does that even mean?
I get that.
But you get that, right? Like, there's some games where you have to have memory, and you're like, gosh, you feel like, oh, why am I so stupid? Like, I can't remember these things. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to play this. This didn't make me feel like that. Sure, I messed up a couple of times, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the end of the world. I didn't feel horrible about it. I was still happy to play it. So Flipover Frog, for me, I really enjoyed it. And I definitely think if you haven't tried it, you should check it out. And for $16, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I love Flipover Frog. The only thing I would like to add, and Mandy, maybe you didn't know this.
Yeah.
There's a Switch version. Oh, look at that face.
Hold on a minute here, everybody.
See her, folks? She's making a big face.
The finger is up. Green. Whoa, hold on. How did I not know there was a Switch version?
I don't know. I guess you don't pay enough attention to me online.
I know, because I think you actually did mention this now that I think about it, and then someone else reiterated it. Memory, forgot.
It happened. So yeah, folks, if this sounds appealing, definitely go pick up the game. It's a beautiful little production, a lot of fun. It's very clever, right? Mm-hmm. It's not as simple as maybe the initial description sounds, but if you want to try it solo or you just enjoy playing games digitally as well, there is a lovely version of it available on the Nintendo Switch as well.
So happy.
And to wrap up, it's roll and write time. It's that time, folks.
Oh, goodness.
Look, I can't help it that people keep on making cool roll and write games. What can I say? And Mandy's played this one too.
Yes, I have.
Riverside. Riverside is designed by Eilif Svensson and Asmund Svensson. Siblings! A sibling design pair. How cool is that?
Cute. I love it.
The illustration is by Geirmund Bone, and this is published by Chili Fox. Now, if you haven't heard of Chili Fox games, that's because they're brand new. Chili Fox is a publishing, offshoot, branch, or sibling publisher to Aporta Games, who we've talked about before. And I'm not really 100% sure what they're doing with Chili Fox, but I suspect that a Games was, they do the Magnificent.
Yes.
And they do Offshore. Like, they do meaty Euro-style games. And I wonder if maybe Chili Fox is a publishing arm that they can do what they feel are lighter games, because they also have a party game called Doodle Dash or something to that effect that they're publishing under this new Chili Fox umbrella. Back to Riverside. So Riverside is a roll and write game in which you are leading Nordic river tours. You're going to get these cardboard tiles that have a little branch of a river illustrated on them. You shuffle them up and you set them out. So your board is randomized every game, which is very, very cool. And when they're all put together, it looks like a long U-shaped river where you go on the top of the river, you go east, and then when you hit the far end, you loop back and then go back west on the bottom of the board, all the way back to the start, and then the game is done. Each turn, a set of dice are going to be rolled. One of the dice, the median value dice, is going to determine how many spots this boat moves down the river. All the players at the same time get to pick one of the dice to gain passengers. The dice match the different layers or different decks on your player sheet. So there's a pink deck and a green, there's a pink deck, there's a white deck, there's a yellow deck, that kind of thing. So if I pick the yellow deck and the yellow die, and the yellow die shows 4, I'm going to color in 4 passengers on my yellow deck on my boat. Roll die, move boat, gain passengers. And then when you fill a row of passengers anywhere on your boat, there's always some kind of bonus passengers associated with it. So maybe if I fill in that row on my yellow deck, oh, look, it unlocks 2 more passengers on my blue deck. So then I can go fill in more down there. So you get a little combo action going. When you complete a row, you also unlock a ticket. Why do you care about tickets? Because those let you send passengers on excursions. Along the board, along the river, there are going to be different villages. Again, their color matches those boat decks and the dice. And so maybe you've got 2 tickets on your white deck. Oh, look, there's the excursion to go to the mountains or whatnot at the white section. So you're going to send them there. If that village excursion is worth 5 points and you have 2 white tickets, you're going to score 10 points. You get 1 excursion per turn. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to be going down this river. You're going to be collecting passengers, collecting tickets, sending people on excursions. And at the end of the game, the player with the highest score wins. Some of the twists. Of course, the randomization of the villages, the randomization of the river tiles really does matter. When you roll the dice, you are actually going to identify the median value. That determines how far the boat moves. But also, any die that is higher than the median goes into this section called the hot zone. And you have to mark off this little area that has like flames. It's not a bad thing. You don't take a point hit, but you have a limited amount. So the higher value die, which gets you more passengers, which is good, well, you're limited on how much of that you can do, and you have to kind of time your choices there. There's also a green die, which is not associated with any deck. That's an additive die. You may choose to use it, but using that die will also cause you to gain those heat points, which again, not a bad thing, but limited. So timing really matters. Another cool thing is that you can always go back to a village. You can score the same village 3 times if you want to. No big deal. But the value of the excursion must always increase. So if I score 10 points on my first excursion and I want to go back to that village, if I have not gotten another ticket to increase the point value, I can't score it. It always has to increase. Can't tie, has to increase. And that creates actually more tension than it may sound in description. When you play it, you start to really get a feel for that. I love that you can look down the river. You know what villages you're going to hit. So that can really drive the choices you make in which die you select, which decks you fill, which rows on that deck you fill to get the bonus passengers to kind of create that combo situation. It's more strategic than you would think on description because the description is very simple. But Osmond, I believe that this is his first credited game, but Iliff has a history. Iliff is also one of the designers behind Trails of Tucana and Avenue, both roll and write games that I absolutely love. And similarly, very, very clever. And you see that pedigree reflected in Riverside as well. A simple game, rules-wise, lovely, fun theme, but definitely has very clever gameplay. Congrats to Chili Fox for opening the door with a lovely roll and write game. Riverside is excellent. It's going to be available. This was a preview copy. It's going to be available in Europe at Essen. It does not have North American distribution yet. There is some history with a Porta-Games getting distribution, so I'm really hoping that Riverside will catch the attention of an American partner or a North American partner, because this one's really enjoyable. That's Riverside from Chili Fox.
Yes, I really enjoyed this one, and I that was one of our questions. Is it coming to North America? Because I think a lot of people will really enjoy it. So definitely, we're going to try and make this happen, Suze. We're going to see people listening. Hey, bring it in. And I know when I was playing this game, there were definitely, I tried to play two different ways. Now, I lost horribly in both ways, but I did actually do better the second time around. But I decided to literally use a lot of the heat, and in my brain, all I kept singing, "This girl is on fire," because I was using all the heat, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to use this heat and I'm going to win. And then I played with Ashley and Susan. It did not go that way, but that is okay, because I did better than the last time. So there you go. So different strategies yield different results, and in this way it was a good way, good thing. So definitely Riverside, hoping it comes here, you can get your hands on it. I think a lot of people will really enjoy this.
And for what it's worth, it also plays solo, and it plays solo great. All right, Mandy, it's that time, my favorite time, pie time.
Woo-woo!
You sound very excited about the pie.
Brought to you by TheOp.games, also known as USAopoly. Today's featured game is Hues and Cues. Recent Dice Tower Party Game of the Year winner, Hues and Cues, is a must-add to your shelf. To play, pick a color, give a clue, and everyone guesses a color on the board. For example, what color do you think of when I say apple? Would you pick a bright red apple or maybe a green apple? Everyone sees color differently, making this game so unique. The closer the guesses are to the target, the more points you earn. Available now at TheOp.games or your local game store today. Exclusive for Dice Tower listeners, 10% off your entire purchase at TheOp.games. Use promo code DICETOWER. This is available for all games, puzzles, and accessories for U.S. residents only. Free shipping available on purchases of $49 or more.
And now, it's time to order up a slice of game pie.
Game pie. I don't know why I all of a sudden had, is it Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go.
Well, I literally have no idea why that would come into mind.
I don't either.
But, hey, Mandy, more power to you, whatever works.
I think I just pictured the dwarfs with the shovels and the stuff. So, now that I actually think about it, it probably wasn't garden related, but I feel now that I've put it out there, we're going to make it work.
Okay.
I don't know where I was
Push
going
on
with that.
forward. You can do it.
Okay, on that embarrassing note, everybody, we are doing garden games today. Now, I am going to stick on topic, on brand, and it will be about gardening. There are no exceptions here. So.
Right, because it could, I think you and I were on the same page that it can stray into farming.
Yes.
But we kind of came to an unspoken agreement that farming and gardening we treat differently.
Right. Because there are a lot of games about farming. A lot of Euros that I like are...
Oh, boy, there's a lot of games about farming.
A lot of games. Not as many for gardening, but and there's some that kind of straddled in between the two, but it did have that gardening element. So let's jump in, and you all can be the judge of, the gardening pies. Although I feel like this is more of a savory pie. Could go either way. Okay, here we go. So first game up for me is Herbaceous. And I recently actually acquired a copy of the little Herbaceous so I could travel with it. This is exciting.
Brilliant. I love it.
So good. So Herbaceous is pretty straightforward game. So the art is by Beth Sobel. I think this is a pencil first game, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a game where you're set collection, right? You have your little garden area, and you're trying to create different types of sets. So you might want the same type of herb, or I think it's herb specifically in this one. Or you might want different ones, or you want sets of 2 of different ones. And so it's a card game. You're trying to acquire these cards in order to get these sets. Like, it's a pretty straightforward, simple game. I like it a lot. I love the art. I love the gameplay. It plays relatively quickly. The fact that it now comes in a travel size, so good, because I can actually take it with me. And this is a game that I would legit, well, maybe not now on the floor of the airport, maybe before. Yeah. But this might be one that I would play, in an outside kind of setting. So Herbaceous is one I quite enjoy, and I'm happy to have a main copy and a travel copy.
Lovely choice. First slice of garden game up for me, Garden Dice. Garden Dice is a tile laying game, and as the name would imply, you use dice to lay these tiles. Each tile has like a seed on one side and then a full bloom on the other. And when you roll your dice values will determine which seeds you can plant and where you can plant them in the garden. There's a watering mechanism based on the value. There's a harvest mechanism. So when you plant the seed, then you can water them, then they turn into a plant, and then you can harvest them and take them off and get the points. Huzzah! There are special tiles, whether it's a fountain or birds or scarecrows or things like that, just to add a little more strategy. Like, I think the scarecrow protects the tiles around it from being taken. There is a little bit of player interaction, but not a ton. And Garden Dice is just quick, approachable. I love the spatial element on the board, and a lovely garden game.
This looks good. And as soon as I saw this, I'm like, yep, that sounds like a Suzanne game. Garden Dice?
Yes, you would be correct.
Okay, next up on my list, I haven't played this game for a while, so bear with me. We'll rest through the explanation. I'll try my best here. Topiary, and I think this was published by Renegade Games, not initially, but Renegade Games ended up picking it up. And this is a game where you have tiles. You're trying to lay them out in, I believe, is it increasing order, Suzanne, where it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or is it?
Ideally, yes, because you're viewing. Like, the bigger the number, the taller the plant.
Exactly. And it's great because on the tiles, it actually shows you, like, it's a small plant at 1, the next size up from 2. So you can see the concept of the game. So we're trying to create them in rows where it's smaller number to bigger number. So you can actually see. And by seeing it, that's going to get you more points in the game. And I forget the grid size, but it's kind of in a grid type way. And it can get tricky when you're placing them, right? Because you have to place them in a specific way. So Topiary is one that I really liked. I played this a lot when I first got it. So if you haven't tried it, give it a whirl. So I put this in the gardening because, it has like trees and you have to shape them and trim them and yeah, it's a tree thing.
I'm not going to argue with you on this one. Topiary is a really great game.
It's a really good game, so you should check it out if you haven't already.
Next slice up for me, maybe a bit of a cheat because it's not officially out yet, but I've played it a bunch because I have a prototype.
Yep.
And that's Three Sisters.
Ooh,
this is a roll and write game, and it's by the dynamic game design duo of Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle, who also did Fleet Dice, which is such a wonderful game, and it's being published by their new publishing label, Motor City Gameworks. And just like Fleet Dice, Three Sisters is combo-tastic. You have all of these different areas with different pumpkin and corn stalks, and then there's areas where you've got a pie safe and wheelbarrows, and there's an orchard section, there's an apiary with bees, and as you're allocating, you're just trying to build combos, right? When you go all the way up this area and unlock something special over here, which gets you a bonus over here, which you can gain an ability over there, which then makes your action stronger over there. You're bouncing all around these sheets, trying to build that little engine, build that little combo system. And I love that about Fleet Dice, and I think, I'm not going to say I love it more in Three Sisters, but it works for me in Three Sisters so well, too. I think the theme and the art is fabulous, and Three Sisters is a great gardening game, and I can't wait to get a production version.
Yes, I also have a copy of this, and I backed it as well on Kickstarter, so I'm really excited.
That's right, it was on Kickstarter.
Get that, yeah, so super exciting. Next up on my list is Village Green. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure we talked about this on the podcast. If not, well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think
Yes.
we did. Definitely. So this might be a little bit of a repeat here, but Village Green is great. And guess what? You are a gardener in this one, and you're trying to arrange flowers, plant trees, commission statues, build pools. You are literally doing all the things. And this is where you have cards. You're trying to get them in specific kind of columns or rows based on other cards that you have that are going to help you score. And some of those can be negative if you have maybe a pool in one row under a specific scoring card. And you're like, oh, I don't need that there. You might want to have that in a row where, you are going to score those things. And you definitely have to pay attention to the symbols on the cards because they have specific types of colors and flowers, and you have to have a commonality in order for them to be placed beside each other. So it can get super tricky. Another game that I have just been crushed by Suzanne and Ashley, but it was a wonderful experience. So Village Green, I believe that's Osprey Games publishes that one, and that's by Pierre, our friend of ours, Pierre Sylvester, sorry. And definitely check it out if you haven't. So there you go, Village Green.
Next slice up for me. In a way, I could actually see it being similar to Village Green, which is a game I absolutely adore as well. Mr. Cabbage Head's Garden. The big difference here is Mr. Cabbage Head's Garden is really intended as a solo or like 2-player cooperative game, I believe, at most. This is ultimately published by Ludi Creations and designed by Todd Sanders, and it was originally like a print and play, a self-published thing, and then I think Ludi picked it up. And it's got this gorgeous vintage like seed pack art. It's just a beautiful card game. And similar to Village Green, you're playing out these cards into a grid where their position will matter for final scoring as you're trying to create this beautiful garden to be judged. There are these quote unquote like nosy neighbor cards that are judging your garden as well, and they can impact the gameplay. It's very, very clever. It's a delightful solo play experience. Just an excellent, and beautiful game. That's Mr. Cabbage Head's Garden.
That one looks, I love the art on this one. It's one I've been wanting to try.
It's
Is
so
it
beautiful.
Solo or can you play it with two?
You play 2-player yes, you can play 2. I've mostly played it solo, but you can play 2.
Okay, yeah, that was my kind of like, oh, I don't know if I should get it, but if I can play
Yeah,
2-player, yeah, definitely one I want to take a look at. The last slice of pie for me today is Orchard, a 9-card solitaire game. Now, I know what you're going to say. Oh, but Mandy, wait! It's solo! Yes, I know, but it's a 5 to 10 minute solo game, which I'm here for. So this game is designed by Mark Tuck, I believe is the name. And I was just mentioning Suzanne earlier that, I thought this was one of the Button Shy games. It is not. So just to not confuse that. So it's a tile laying game, but when I say tile, I put that in quotes because they're cards that you're placing out, and you're trying to create areas that you can place your dice with corresponding colors to match, right? Because you want to get points in order to do so. So you want to avoid getting rotten fruit because those can throw off your scoring, and you want to harvest. So this is why you want to try and have those areas of specific colors together so you can harvest these specific fruits and get points. So I like this game a lot, and it's quick. Even though it's solo, we're going to bypass that fact and enjoy it for what it is. And it's quite good. So, and it's like a micro game. So it comes in a really small box, and one of those you can just tuck in your pocket and carry anywhere with you. So I really liked it. So it has cards, dice, it's quick. I'm here for it. Orchard.
When Mandy likes a solo game, it's got to be good.
Exactly. I like it. So that's Orchard, a 9-card solitaire game.
And to wrap up, Stone Garden. Mandy, don't yell at me. You can only get it in Japan. I'm sorry.
I know. Trust me, I've been eyeballing
it. It was worth every ounce of effort I went through years ago to get a copy of this game. It is a game all about creating a Japanese rock garden.
Nice.
The tiles have different sand rake patterns on them, and the game comes with a bunch of these faux rocks, but they look real, but they're all different. They're different colors and different textures, different sizes, and ultimately that impacts your scoring.
Right.
As you're laying these tiles in your personal player board, trying to align patterns and create the most beautiful, meditative, peaceful rock garden. First of all, love this whole theme, love this whole setting. The component quality and production is ridiculously beautiful and thematic. And the gameplay is engaging and rich, and I have loved this game for ages. I actually have specifically reached out to North American publishers to beg them to try to find a way to bring this over, and I'm not sure, there's probably a lot of barriers to that. But
Sure.
Stone Garden, if you're in Japan or if you're putting in an Amazon.co.jp order, it's worth checking out. It's a wonderful, wonderful tile-laying garden, even though it's stones, game.
And was this not on Kickstarter, I feel, at one point?
It was not. It was
Okay.
not. This has only ever been published in Japan, and there may have been a game similar in theme,
Possibly.
but no,
possibly.
this is one of a kind. Darn it! I want to.
Yeah, it looks really good, and definitely one I'm eyeing when it comes here. So it definitely looks really good.
There you have it, our garden games pie. It was fun going through our collections and Board Game Geek, looking at all the garden games. There are a lot out there,
Yeah.
but there's a lot more farming games. And Mandy,
Absolutely.
I think you and I are on the same page. I could do with some more garden games. Keep them coming, designers.
Absolutely.
That's going to wrap up our episode. As always, Game Pie is our episode dessert. So, if you have any questions or future Game Pie ideas, feel free to send them in. You can reach me at Suzanne at Dicetower.com.
And you can reach me at Mandi, that's Mandi with an I, at Dicetower.com.
Mandy, I just remembered a listener apparently made a jingle for our email addresses, and I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet, but I gotta go do that. I'm so curious. I saw their email. So if you're out there listening, I saw your email. I just haven't had a chance to listen, but I'm gonna check it out. I'm excited.
This is so exciting.
This is gonna be good. As always, it is a pleasure and privilege to be part of your extended gaming family. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Dice Tower podcast. We really appreciate you being here. We appreciate you voting in our goofy title polls and chatting with us on social media and sending us emails. Thank you so much. You're the best. Next episode, 724. Oh, Mandy, this is going to be a good one. Tom and Eric are going to be talking about their top 10 Spiel games.
Ooh, nice.
So we're talking creme de la creme top
Love
10 here.
Nice. This is exciting.
Going to be a good one. And hey, for those folks who thought Tom was going to be on this episode, unfortunately, we just hit some scheduling issues. We're working with them. It's hard. We got people in all over the North American continent here trying to coordinate schedules, but we'll get them on here for an episode soon.
Absolutely.
Until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon,
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
and you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric with assistance from Roy Canaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at podcast@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. All right, everyone, it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie, so I'll share mine from last episode. I backed Role Player Adventures, I backed So You've Been Eaten, and I backed Pulp Invasion X2, or times 2, on Kickstarter. So if you said that I backed Role Player Adventures was the lie, you would be correct. I sadly...
I'm shocked.
Oh, no.
What?
I backed it and then forgot to fill things out, so...
Dope.
Yeah, so we're going to have to hopefully maybe get that as an after the fact, but I'm a little sad about it. So what about you, Suze?
Yeah. Last episode, I said I backed Ankh, I backed Above and Below, and I backed Seventh Continent. And the lie is that I backed Onk. You know, Mandy, as much as I want to, I can't back everything.
Well,
I just can't. I try, but I can't.
I hear you. All right, well, new up for this episode. Here we go. Lately, I've been watching a lot of TikTok. I've been watching a lot of YouTube. And I've been watching a lot of Twitch. Yeah, this is going to be a tricky one.
Yeah, because I'm like, they're all the truth.
Yeah.
And new for me this episode, I make a great pâte à choux, I make a great pie crust, and I make a great macaron.
Oh my goodness, that sounds much more delightful than mine. But good luck, everyone.